doesn't have a great solution. But one thing I'll say about this game's draft is there were so many proactive tools that LYON had that they used well in game 1, and because of Fearless, they can't just run that back again, so they have to tweak it a little bit for sure.
They're going to have to change things up a little bit, but we are seeing some similar bans to what we saw in the first game. Remember that in the first game, the Skarner and Varus were both red side round 1 bans. You also had the Ashe banned out in the second half of the draft. Kalista was banned away. Yone is always a power pick, it feels like, so he's off the table. Ivern too. First pick Ambessa for Fudge and Shopify.
And I like that with the Cassante and the Jace being out of the pool. So I believe that perfectly aligns with Whippo's picture of the meta. But I'd have to double check his Twitter to see that one.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look again.
I know it's a bit of a tangent, but he said 10,000 likes in order to post his tier list, and he got it in about a day.
Yeah,
so,
and that's in like modern era of Twitter where like stuff gets less in general. Like used to, I feel like back in the day, 10K was like, oh yeah, we're blowing that up
easy.
Yeah. But no, Whippo was commanding some tier list power there. I like that. I like to see that. We'll see how well this lives up to that, as we do have the Rumble locked in for Licorice as the response to that Ambessa up in the top side. And immediately we're going to lock in some big AoE team fight potential for Hena down here in the bot lane. Misfortune picked up in first rotation for LYON.
Love those two together. They just need a little bit of lockdown to go with it. So Hena played a great game. I'd say Saint and Oddie were the two highlights for me for that team. The mid jungle making so many big plays throughout that game 1. Have to see them run it back in. A little bit more defensive here from Contractz on the Maokai.
Okay. Maokai does have a lot of good power for tower diving, however. I always like champions that have some kind of an aggro drop in terms of a jungler role. Like if you think of an Elise, if you think of a Maokai, I feel like aggro drop is such a powerful tool for early tower dives, particularly in this modern era of League for this new season where the towers overheat rapidly. Being able to drop some of that aggro could be the key to getting on the board early, which they struggled to do as a team at all. Remember, at one point it was 5-0, I think almost 20 minutes into the game in the previous game, so definitely not something they want to repeat. They will have Rell here for Zeyzal. Maokai Rell, this is some awesome engage potential.
It's awesome engage. They're going to need to have a lot of damage come through from Palafox and Bvoy, though. And Palafox had a really poor game 1. There's going to be a lot of pressure on his shoulders to be able to do a lot of damage in these team fights.
I really like this Poppy pick. Poppy against Rell can neutralize the champion so effectively. It can make the lane miserable, as well as being able to stop her from doing the job that she wants to do later on in the team fights too. I feel like with the Maokai and Rell combined together, you're always going to want to layer those ultimates. Maokai wants everybody to all group up, while with Rell, everybody wants to get away from her so she can't get the wombo. So that should be decently well telegraphed with the Maokai roots coming in for Poppy to try to stop that Rell follow-up.
I mean, surely it's insane against Ambessa too. The Quadra Dash champion, just whenever you want to stop it, you just press W and walk away. So Licorice should have a lot of freedom with what he wants to do in this game.
Well, I do think it'll be either a support or jungle Poppy, because we do have the Rumble locked in.
Oh, shoot. It almost has to be.
Right?
Whenever it's with Licorice and Poppy, they're so linked.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all for it. It's very much a link that you would make.
It's probably support Poppy.
Yeah, so
right.
it has to be support Poppy now, because Zin's locked in. He only goes jungle.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's playing top lane Zhao.
Support Rumble is a thing that you might do.
I mean,
It was in my quick play game the other day.
I was gonna say, yeah, if we're playing nonsense games at 1 o'clock in the morning, sure, support Rumble. But I don't know if we're going to lock that in on the pro stage. Looks like Shopify is going to go ahead and spend their whole timer thinking about this one before they lock in. I'm not at all surprised to see that picked up there. Azir will be the choice for Palafox.
Yeah, so of the 100 Rumble games so far that Games of Legends has from all the leagues, all 100 are top lane Rumble.
Okay. I'm not particularly surprised at that information.
And so yeah, I think it's probably top lane.
Most likely.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to see that flex.
Well, I mean, hey, there's a first time for everything. Maybe today is going to be the first time.
All right, last year that.
There was a first time for that tank Jace, and now everybody does it.
Yeah, sometimes you set the new standard. Sometimes you shift the meta. Other times you play support Rumble once, and you're like, all right, that was my bad. We'll probably skip that in the future. But we do have a Caitlyn AD carry here for Bvoy. How are we feeling about this in terms of, because you said that we needed to see so much firepower from the AD and mid roles of Shopify. Is this enough?
I do like how much range they have, as long as Bvoy and Zeyzal can have a strong laning phase, because I know Bvoy really does like Caitlyn, and I've always liked Palafox's Azir. I feel like it's one of his best champions. He does have the right time to go in. He can get ahead of the Sylas. We saw this matchup actually last night in Game 1. Faker and Chovy played Sylas Azir against each other. Sylas got the better end of the matchup itself, but I overall think the composition makes sense for Shopify.
All right, so Shopify still has yet to break the loss streak here at the start of the year. Still yet to get a win on the board. They need to do it here, because if they lose this game, they're done till split 2.
Yes, win or go home.
Yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow, and Shopify does not want to have to deal with that right now. Lyonz showed us that they could bring it in game number 1. Shopify is seriously going to have to focus up now. No more chances. If you want to keep playing, if you want to have a chance to go to Brazil, if you want to have a chance to keep pushing forward, showing us what you got, it's all got to start right here in this game 2.
And it starts with Contractz, I feel like, for almost any Contractz team. He does have the ability to just pop off. Now, it is a little harder to do that on Phase Rush Maokai, but he can still make an impact early on if he finds the right angles. All these lanes have a high chance of being volatile. Rumble especially can really take over lane if he gets a little bit ahead in the top lane. Or are we actually going to be seeing lane swaps here? They've been pretty handshakey, just doing straight up laning against each other, and they are 5-man evading. They get the early ward.
Okay, Lion pushing up all the way in. A little bit of bone plating knocked off of the Poppy there. Let's go ahead and once again take stock of kind of where we are with summoner spells and everything like that. As the bottom lane, it will be Ignite for both supports this time around. No Exhaust taken as the more defensive option, but still the barrier for Bvoy. He ran this the last game on the Corki too. Hena continuing to opt for the cleanse, especially against a Rell Maokai combo. I feel like this cleanse is just immediately value from the moment you lock it in.
Yeah, I think so as well. I'm not as sold on the barrier from Bvoy this time as I was when he was on the Corki against Heavy Dive.
Okay.
Just, he will already be stronger in the 2v2 against the Misfortune Poppy anyway. So it's, at this point, I think more of a comfort thing. There's probably
what would you prefer to see?
I think I would probably prefer to have an Exhaust later on in the game. If Zinner or Sylas are ever going to be diving in on him, I think it'll have more effect. It's definitely one of these, I think, more you're taking barrier for lane, but they're probably ahead already. It's a minor thing, as long as we're talking about summoner spells.
I always like to take stock of what people think about that, though, because sometimes those minor things do make a big difference in terms of just barely winning or losing a trade in lane that then changes the tempo of the whole game after, right?
Bvoy could also just be a player that is really good at barrier baiting. Like, there's just a level of comfort as well when you can pull out that shield in the last second. Yeah.
Whenever I think of barrier baits, I always think of the completely crazy, the solo queue top lane Warwick one tricks that all take barrier ignite.
They never die.
Yeah, those are the craziest ones right there. Those are the guys that live on the edge. But quick look at all the lanes shows nothing super crazy just yet either side. Most of the action is happening down here in the bottom lane in these 2v2 scraps. As you can see, a couple summoner spells traded back. The ignite there from Lyonz was dropped, but Zeyzal spent his flash. Yeah. So now if Oddie just wants to go bottom, if this bottom lane from Shopify is going to be pushed up, there could be a punish angle.
Exactly. Now they're gankable. They're also taking an early recall.
Okay. That doesn't sound like you're happy with this.
No, I'm not a fan.
Okay.
So they're out of wards as well, so maybe they were just afraid that Zhao would be doing a little bit of a cheese gank because they're dropping a good number of minions. They can't, like, they buy rank 1 boots for Bvoy, I guess, and extra health potions for the Rell, but that's a good start for Lion that they get the recall out this early.
Yeah, they'll take it. Just slow pushing this wave up. It'll stack up nice and large. You do have Audieland clearing through his bottom side jungle right now. It looks like both of our junglers are going to give us a full 6 camp clear yet again. As Bvoy and Zeyzal have made it back to the lane. We'll see how well they can farm up here with this stacked up wave. Lyonz just continuing to take control over the brush. Scuttle Crabs are going to spawn here. Junglers both clearing out the last remaining camps that they have. Audieland on the blue. The Gromp, the target for Contractz, so they'll move to those opposite side crabs around the same time. Licorice versus Fudge up here in the top lane. Pretty even. Licorice is behind a very small amount of farm early, but especially after what you pointed out last game and the stats that we saw from last week, I really do want to keep an eye on how well he farms against Fudge in this game.
For sure. He needs to make sure he can win lane occasionally, but but they're prepping a dive here.
They
no
immediately
flash.
go in for the poppy slam into the turret, but it does not work. That turret is so deadly early on, and now Saint's going to be in some danger. Tries to get over the wall, but Contractz following with the twisted advance. Saint is in trouble. Oddie making his way over, looking to stop the Shopify jungler. It's first blood over to Palafox, but Oddie makes it a 1-for-1. Lyonz coming up through the river as Oddie continues going after Palafox, hits the first one of the 3 Talon strikes, but he will not get any more, even trade in mid lane.
It will be a nice little bonus for Palafox, but because they traded the kill back and Saint has the wave pushing into him, he's not going to end up losing all that much. But I like the move from Contractz there, right? Zeyzal does something on the bot side of the map. Contractz immediately follows when he knows there's not a counter gank, so he can full send on that dive, and they're able to get the kill.
Back up top side, let's check in on how these guys are doing. Both at about half HP, both are manaless champions. Let's take a look at the replay now instead, as we do see how Saint ended up in this spot. He was really far pushed.
Yeah, you can see flashing just a fraction late. He needed to make sure he had enough distance, because if the Maokai can't follow over the wall, then Saint definitely doesn't die there. So very slim margins on that. Still gonna be nice that Palafox gets the gold, whereas Oddie gets the gold on the other side. And less!
Oh, wait, hold on, what? We're right back to live, and Saint solo kills him. That's not the way you're expecting it to go down. Lyonz using the tackle defensively, trying to get away, but Contractz' gank works out in the bottom lane.
It might be one of those Contractz games, but he needs his teammates to cooperate. When he leaves, he cannot be getting solo killed. So what are we going to see here? I believe we're going to see the solo kill. All right, they're both level 5. I guess he just lands all his spells.
Oh, wow, yeah, max range E2.
Damn.
Wow.
And it didn't look like that Palafox was able to get his E-shield off. Even a little thing like that would be enough to save him. But then Contractz just finds another angle coming in from behind and getting that kill.
You can see a little bit of frustration there on the face of Palafox. Does not want to give those away. I mean, I feel like in pro play, whenever you give away the 1v1 or the 2v2 kill, you're always kicking yourself a little bit for it, because you feel like, okay, you shouldn't, in a neutral state, you should understand the matchup, not give your opponent that window. But Palafox falling there does give Saint the opportunity to pull back ahead in terms of gold. Contractz will be starting off the grub pit, takes the first grub, has more help nearby to continue controlling the area, but LYON doesn't just want to let him walk away with it.
Well, I'm confused that Shopify didn't just 5-man this, because they deployed on the map as if they were going to take all the grubs. Fudge's Ambessa ran out mid lane like they were going to fight at grubs, but then they just take one and walk away. Meanwhile, Licorice has gotten a full wave, push it all the way into turret, and now it's still 2 out of 3 going over to LYON. So I like the macro more from LYON, but I think they were set up to just concede grubs, and instead they get the grubs and still get the benefits of the lanes pushing.
Nice job from Shopify to at least get the flash from Hena there, but I totally agree with you. I feel like that had to have been some kind of a macro blunder from the side of Shopify, just sort of giving away what shouldn't have been given to LYON. But hey, if you're LYON, you're not going to look the gift horse in the mouth. You're happy to take the 2-1 grub lead and get Licorice a little bit of extra money in his pockets in the side.
Yeah, for what it's worth, Licorice did have teleport, so if they did start a 4v5, then Licorice might have teleported in, and they didn't want to fight against a equalizered up Rumble, but still, LYON getting slight better of that, but ultimately, I'm looking at this game state. Very little is decided as much as we're talking about it.
Yeah. Also, one thing I want to point out, because I feel like we don't see this super often. Fudge is starting with the Hex Drinker for lane. No champion in the game rushes Maw of Malmortius as their core, central first item. So this is always just a lane answer. It is a significant delay to your first completed item power spike, but it provides a lot of value in that 1v1, especially since as the game goes on, if he's in a side lane, it's either the Rumble that answers him or it's a Sylas. So you're always going to get value out of it. I think I like this.
I think it's a good point. I think it's smart from Fudge, especially if you look at the way the last game played out, when they really struggled to keep their side waves pushed, and that's the tempo that allowed LYON to just get engage after engage. So if he can build in order to win a 1v1, at least they're going to be winning one side lane, and that really opens up the way you can play the game.
All right, Saint using the teleport to rejoin back into the mid lane skirmish. Palafox needs to stick around a little bit longer. You can see he's got a little bit over 1 minute left on his own teleport cooldown before he can take his recall, complete his purchase, get back into the lane himself. We do have the Dragon live on the map. Nobody has taken that first one. Unlike the first game, where we kind of saw the objectives get traded back and forth, even though there was a little bit of disruption on the Grubs just became so much more of a focus as Shopify tried to figure out if they were going to commit for it, as LYON hung around and figured out, oh, are we going to fight for this? Nobody was really there to mess with the Dragon, so that one's still going to be standing. Means that it's likely to be another one of those games where the feats of strength are going to occur later because of the fact that the neutral objective one can't happen early because nobody took an early Dragon. Usually the turret one can't happen until after 14 minutes unless somebody's just getting stomped. So probably going to be a later feat of strength acquisition in this one.
Contractz got a good angle here. No one here to save Licorice.
Walks into the brush, but it's already warded. Tries to flash away, but Contractz ready for the follow. Public execution from Fudge's Ambessa. Licorice wants to lay down the equalizer. Not even going to get half of Contractz' health, though. Good pickup from Shopify.
Really well played early game here from Contractz. He is sacrificing the Drake to make this play. That, I think, is why Licorice was so far pushed up, is he just thought that the Drake was going to be next on the menu and that he was for sure in a 1v1 up there. And if someone does gank me, well, then they're giving away the Drake, which is exactly the trade that happens here. But the reason I like it is because Fudge really needs to be strong enough to fight Rumble. So that's the early Hex Drinker. That's the magic resist he's going to be able to continue to stack up. And with the extra kill there, it just increases his chances that he can win against both Sylas and Rumble later in the game.
3 kills for Shopify, 3 assists for Contractz, and it kind of goes back to what you're talking about in draft. Contractz teams need Contractz to be active. They need him to set things up and be the facilitator. He was not that in game number 1 when the score was 5-0. The enemy jungle had 100% KP, and he had nothing. The whole team had nothing. This time around, he's been a part of all 3 so far for Shopify. It's a much better look here in the early game. They're up of what I would just call a minion wave hitting the turret in terms of difference in gold. It doesn't really matter that much, right? It's not a real lead. Everything's essentially dead even. But that does mean it's a whole lot better than it was in game number 1.
Absolutely.
Oddie Land is showing up to provide a little bit of extra presence down here in the bottom lane. Hena and Lyonz crashing the wave into the tier 1 turret, using the power of the Grubs to try to take this third plate. Zeyzal and Fudge, Contractz showing up behind him, but Saint is also hovering. Would be a 4v3 favoring LYON as Zeyzal disengages.
Yeah, just trying to defend at this point because that turret is losing a lot of health. And if Shopify can somehow get the first turret, they would be able to get the feat of strength because they got the feat of warfare already. But it is a pretty big uphill battle. I'm just surprised, actually, that Bvoy is so far behind Hena in tempo this game, even with taking the barrier. I think a lot of it is to do with that early recall that they took in that after that level 2 trade. They just haven't been able to get the pressure back in this game, and they're doing a lot of swapping back and forth as well.
Fudge trying to get as much damage onto that tier 1 turret down bottom lane as he can. Second set of Grubs have spawned. Saints hanging around nearby, does have a stolen Magnet Storm from Zeyzal. We'll see if LYON wants to try to force anything here. They do have the 2 Grubs they already secured from that first set. Contract's going to start up the second one. Remember, as long as you get at least 1, they can't take feats of strength credit for it. If you get all 3, you will get the feats of strength credit for yourself. And it looks like with Contractz, Zeyzal, and Palafox all working together, it's total control over the topside river for Shopify.
Saint's got to be a little careful he doesn't go too far, but I think he's just trying to scare him off that last one. Contractz will not be intimidated by a lonely Sylas. And with Liandry's being built as well, that's actually such a powerful moment in the game for the Maokai.
Yeah.
I've seen fights where it's just like a couple saplings and 1 R over the top of the team, and Maokai has done more damage than the rest of his team, especially on this one Liandry's power spike.
The item number 1, Liandry's Maokai, yes, over the course of the game, he'll probably just build more tank and he'll become a meatball. But for this short, briefest of moments in Summoner's Rift,
so strong.
He really is a bazooka. As Shopify, Contractz, and Zeyzal both up here in the top side. You can see Contractz still just clearing through as Zeyzal's going to establish some vision, moving back towards the top half of the map, towards the top lane. They are going to drop the ward from Palafox. See Saint trying to recall there in the brush. He'll retreat back to the tier 1. Lyonz is hovering nearby, so it's not like there's really a dive angle here for Shopify, but it doesn't seem like they're entirely aware of Lyon's presence. So Zeyzal will walk up here. They're at least going to know on Lyon's side that, hey, Shopify's kind of looking for this, but Contractz and Zeyzal back away from it.
The whole feeling of this game is so different than game one, though. It's Shopify actually making a lot of more aggressive plays. They have deep rewards. They have lanes to play off of. You could see Palafox pushing top lane. Fudge is pretty comfortable down bot with that Ambessa, 10 CS advantage on Licorice's Rumble. There's a much higher chance that Shopify, that we get LTA North's first game 3 with how this one started.
And you know what I'm looking at as the biggest driver of the difference between this game and game number 1? Which team has the engage options? Because if you look at Shopify, you have Maokai, you have Rell. These are great engage options. You can use them anywhere, anyhow, any way, any reason you want. Just point and click, go. If you look over at LYON, you've got Zeyzal and you've got Poppy. Zeyzal needs to prime his Q to immediately get hard CC, so it's conditional. Poppy needs to rain to slam you into, so again, conditional. The engage mechanisms for LYON just aren't there the same way that they were in game number 1, and just like I said before that first game, when you're talking about teams that are lower than top of the table, middle of the pack, bottom of the pack, whatever, engage is king. Being able to go when you want to go matters the most.
And I think when LYON will be able to go is there, but very hard to execute. Saint will have to grab a Maokai ultimate somewhere, then maybe they can pull something off, and I think that'll give them enough pop to actually go for a fight. But with this next Drake spawning fairly soon, you can see there's not that much vision from LYON. They can probably get that mid-wave pushed and move through here, but you can see that's where Shopify is all set up waiting for him.
Also worth pointing out that after the Hex Drinker was built, the first fully completed item for Fudge is the Voltaic Cyclo Sword. Yeah. This is the high damage option for Ambessa. This will make you squishier. If you dive in desynced with your team, you can pop very easily, but it gives you a ton of damage potential as Saint steals away Palafox's ulti. Beautiful eject from Lyonz. The Azir Soldier battle ends in a victory for Saint with the stolen ulti as Lyonz knocks away the backup for Palafox, and a kill on the Shopify mid laner translates into the second Drake of the game for LYON.
LYON really have Palafox's number today.
Yeah.
That was so rough because they had the setup. Like, they have the Leandry's Maokai to control the river, but Palafox gets caught with a little bit of a fast play, gets flipped back by Saint. Lyonz is on the same page to be able to secure that kill, and that's a big swing there to keep them in the lead in this game.
Absolutely huge. Now Zeyzal trying to keep Licorice away from this tier 1 turret. As you can see, Zeyzal now needs to be worried about his own self. Flashes over the wall. Saint's trying to come up here and help Licorice. Fudge just trying to provide an escape mechanism here for his support. Saint wants to go in. Uses the public execution. Low HP there on Licorice. He'll be the first to die. Bullet time over the top. Cuts Contractz down to size. Bvoy going in for a couple of more shots. Hena has to try to escape. LYON has lost their top laner. Shopify has lost their jungler. A 1-for-1 trade in the top half of the map.
Oh, Bvoy was so close to cleaning up there. Collector first item, so he literally needed one more hit onto Hena to be able to get that kill. And now he might be dead.
Oddie going in for Bvoy. Needs that third hit of the 3-talent strike. Bvoy with the flash over the wall. Lyonz tries to tackle him. I feel like if that's just slightly different, he does get the wall bang based on the terrain. Yeah. You can never quite know. Sometimes those angles are strange. It looked like it could have worked. Luckily for Bvoy, it does not, but it still costs both summoner spells.
And those walls change every season. How's someone supposed to get the right slam angle on that one? A bit lucky that Bvoy is able to stay alive there. They do get both summoners. So the start of this play, you could see Saint was forcing just a little bit, and Fudge is trying to stay in the way. Saint really wanted to go for that execute onto Zeyzal, but can't quite get it to line up. And then ultimately, it's just a trade of kills. The Otacon wall ends up helping in that instance, and then doesn't help Lyonz later on in this fight.
Poppy buffed by Otacon existing on the Rift. It just works. It just works. Also, worth pointing out, I was right when I called it earlier. 17 minutes in, feats of strength still not claimed.
Wow.
Because we don't have the objective one taken. Because there's one objective taken for the side of Shopify. There is 2 taken for the side of LYON with the 2 Drakes. LYON got the turret, Shopify got the kills. So this Rift Herald, if LYON gets it, they have feats. If Shopify gets it, they're still not claimed yet.
It pushes back.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the first game where a feat somehow doesn't go over and the game just ends.
Yeah, it's really hard to do.
It be possible.
But it is possible, yeah. It is possible. Obviously, you have to kill turrets to win the game. But if one team gets the kill one, the other team gets the turret one, and then both teams just fail to play for neutrals, it could happen.
It could happen. I've also heard that there's 2 different Otacon buffs, but I've only seen one in pro play, which is strange.
The one only exists in solo queue.
Yeah, I think it's a solo queue only
It's solo
buff.
queue exclusive.
Yeah, Ruinous Otacon. Voracious Otacon is the one in Pro.
Yeah, like you see all the stuff in Pro that seems like exclusive to Pro, like the coordinated team environment, but that Otacon's for solo queue only. As Saint now could be in a really bad spot, tries to get himself away from this one, survives the initial engage, and now Zeyzal could be in trouble. Bvoy coming in to back up his teammate. Zeyzal still trying to get away. Q2 ain't gonna do enough damage from Saint. Everybody from both sides walking away,
Fudge,
except for Licorice. Fudge is taking Licorice to the cleaners. The Rumble's gonna have to walk that one off.
Fudge just flew through the team fight, teleporting the top wave, and then nearly solo kills Licorice by the end. Otherwise, that fight's a whole bunch of ado about nothing. A ton of ultimates get burned. It looks like Shopify ends up getting more map pressure out of that fight, but still no one dies on either side.
Yeah, we've got the gold lead shrunk that back down below 1,000, at least because of the turret being taken. Shopify is going to secure themselves the Rift Herald, which will be their second neutral objective of the game. So feats of strength still unclaimed. The next neutral objective, which will be either Otacon spawning in 45 seconds. Most teams can't take him on spawn. He's very tough to kill. Or, much more likely, the Dragon spawning in just over a minute. Whoever claims that will also get the upgraded boots.
And you would think that Shopify has a slightly higher probability of being able to take this down with the Maokai saplings and more engaged buttons. But the problem is Palafox still without flash, Bvoy still without flash. So if there's the right angle, like a Poppy flash stun into the wall on top of a Rumble ultimate, could be enough to turn the fight in Lyon's favor.
30 seconds until that Drake spawns. Shopify just going ahead, checking all the boxes, setting up some vision, control ward here in the mid lane side brush, a little bit of normal ward down there in the banana brush to just keep an eye on where Lion might be trying to approach from, securing the crab for themselves too. They got everybody down here, even Fudge on the Ambessa. He has no TP, so he's set up to push the bottom lane instead. Oddie wanted to go in over the wall there, lands the wind, becomes lightning, tries to drop that crescent guard, bullet time over the top after Zeyzal. Bvoy and Zeyzal both fully disengaging. Lion can't continue the chase because of all of the extra power that would be coming in the form of Fudge. The Ambessa showing up means Lion needs to fall back. Nobody dies from either side.
Yeah, that was very fast by Lion, I'd want to say. It almost looks like Audieland got a bit surprised by the blast cone, throwing him all the way into the team. Like, it didn't seem like that was an intentional engage. It was technically a brief moment of 5v4, but it was such a almost like poor angle that they lost the fight anyway. So they've currently abandoned the objective just to take top turret. The weird thing is Shopify didn't feel comfortable going for it, so it's actually now turned into a good macro play for Lion where they get the turret, Palafox has to match, and they can then start as they wait for their Rumble ult to come back off cooldown.
Yes, Saint used his TP to go top and take that turret. And now with Palafox up there in the top side, Lion is going to get themselves the Drake, so they're going to get the feats alongside Soul Point. This is a massive buff for Lion, who are just loving the state of the game now.
Yeah, 3 Drakes, Soul Point, feet secured, and this is close. I really thought this was going to be the game where Shopify pushes us to a game 3, but they're seeming to be a step slow on a lot of things. Like, one thing, Palafox definitely having a bad series. Saint has been punishing him heavily, as well as the rest of Lion.
Yeah.
But more so just for how many veterans that they have on this team, they really don't seem to be on the same page with what they want to do. I do think after that failed engage by Lion, Shopify should have just straight up 5-manned the Drake,
force it.
Especially when Saint teleports away. No Rumble ult, no Misfortune ult, no Sylas, but they end up losing the turret and the Drake, so Lion definitely having better macro this entire series.
And you mentioned Sylas, and I think it's always worth pointing out, 2 levels, actually about a level and a half if you look at the EXP bar for Saint until 16. Once Sylas is level 16, he is yoinking ults constantly. Of course, you still have the restriction on the individual ult, but just being able to steal multiple ults in a fight, this guy will become a serious menace. You start off with the Maokai ult, then you take one of the other ones after the fight's already halfway done. You can seriously wreak some havoc. Audieland with a nice third talent strike there on Zeyzal as he tried to get away, and Shopify's support is killed with absolutely nothing back in trade. Now Saint's ready to keep it going. Jumps in with a stolen Magnet Storm on top of Contractz. They're trying to keep going, but Palafox is supplying the damage. Saint flashes away to get back away over the wall, but a TP's coming in. Palafox got to be careful. They try to intercept Audieland in time, and the wind becomes lightning, but it is not enough. Palafox barely hangs on. The dust settles on a 1-for-1.
Calculated, I think, from Palafox there.
Why not?
It looked like he'd gone way too far in. Oddie gets baited at the end of the day and ends up falling, but it will be a 1-for-1 and a turret over for Lyonz, so they'll still win that, even if Oddie couldn't quite finish the kill onto Palafox at the end.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
It was looking way scarier for Shopify than I thought it would actually end up. They did a good job all working together. Palafox providing the covering fire as they tried to go in and kill Contractz, then just barely missing out on the kill on Saint. But considering they also barely kept Palafox alive, I feel like that was a tale of two mid laners living by the skin of their teeth.
Yeah, and you can see as well, Lyonz got 4 sweepers right now, so they're really trying to deny as much vision as possible, which is one of the things that's helping them get these picks, like when they were able to run down Zeyzal. So they're an incredibly aggressive team, man. Like, every time that they've had a chance to engage, it feels like they're flying in for it.
And I always do like to see more sweepers on a team that has fewer engage mechanisms because, like you say, you have to get the angles. You have to catch them by surprise since you can't just directly engage. Speaking of directly engaging, Oddie going to go after Palafox here. Where's my win becomes lightning? There it is.
Jeez.
Equalizer down over the top. Palafox goes in for the soldiers, but it does not have the desired effect. Knocked back into the wall. Palafox falls. Lyonz roaring to life, taking down the enemy mid laner yet again. 6-5 game here for Lyon. 2,000 gold ahead. Under 2 minutes until what'll be the soul for them spawns. Meanwhile, Saint just backing up here on the top side. I feel like if Shopify really wants to make a big play, it's going to come off of Fudge having just a huge DPS performance. I feel like anytime somebody squares up against him 1v1, they're kind of getting their ass kicked.
Yeah.
And that's what Shopify has to find some sort of an angle to play through.
And speaking of angles, that was a really creative angle from Lyon to pull that game off. There's a control ward in the lane. Palafox really did not think that there'd be 3 people down there when Otacon and Baron are about to be spawning. And now this might be a little hasty. Palafox can teleport in, though, if they want to try and burst this down. Surely Lyon will be on the way.
Okay. TP's coming in.
Saplings, traps. It is hard to get in.
Yeah, they are blocking off the entrance to this pretty effectively. Audieland's going to face check it. Immediately, they're charging up the Poppy ult. Lyonz tries to go for it, but he doesn't hit anybody. Massive engage coming up from Zeyzal here with a Magnet Storm. Licorice going to die at the very start. Voracious Otacon is claimed by Contractz. Licorice loses his life, and this is a massive swing in the favor of Shopify, who just earned themselves the strongest buff in the game, and they're about to get Baron too.
And it's likely that this Baron is uncontestable because of the Otacon buff and the fact that it's 5v4. They used so many tools there to prevent the entrances, the 5 Caitlyn traps and the barrage of saplings, but they're going to go for a steal, maybe?
Okay, Fudge immediately jumping in on Oddie, wants to stop the ability to steal that one away. First false life going to be claimed. Hena going in after Fudge, looking to take the second. He gets it down. Contract's about to die here to the Poppy. He's finally going to lose his life too. Palafox takes Hena out of the picture. Saint going golden, steps on the trap as soon as he's back alive. Zonia's don't work against Caitlyn. Shopify swing the game back in their favor.
And just like that, with 3 minutes left on the Baron power play, it's already at plus 2,800 gold because there were bounties that Lyon gave away for that fight. We're going to go all the way back to the start, though, and this is actually linked to Palafox dying bottom lane. The 3 players of Lyon had to reset. Shopify set up everything with saplings and traps and just started up Otacon right away. And then because the contest was so genuine from Lyon, they also died. That changed into Baron. And you could argue now Shopify is ahead in the game. It's still only 2,000 gold and it's up against Soul Point. But that's 3 objectives in a row now they've been able to take. And it's already a plus 4,000 gold Baron power play.
Plus, that dragon spawns at an incredibly convenient time. Shopify is just getting into their momentum. There's no way for Lyon to try to contest that and secure that soul that would help stabilize the losses they're currently experiencing. Now Shopify is going in all guns blazing. The wave about to crash into the tier 3 turret here in the bottom lane. Fudge going to be leading that one in. Does have Shojin plus Maw plus Cyclosword all completed. And Lyon are now scrambling to get into defensive positions and hold off this Shopify assault.
Yeah, Rumble ult used just to try and stop the wave. You can see still a little bit of the Voracious Otacon buff still there. Palafox being very aggressive to just chip away at this turret. Shopify in such a good position because they can set up Caitlyn traps and Maokai saplings as well to prevent an engage.
Okay. Well, I mean, Shopify's not going to push anymore right now.
A bit of time, that's all.
Yeah, that's it. That's all you're going to get. Palafox taking the tier 2 over in mid lane, and now that wave is ready to crash into the tier 3 turret. Shopify going to convert some of the resources over to that lane, get the little bits of chip damage that they can. Saint fires off the stolen Maokai ulti, but nothing to be found with that one, as both of these tier 3 turrets are now barely hanging on. Tier 3 turret in mid, the first to fall.
I know that last week some people were asking for like an Otacon power play. Luckily, because Otacon and Baron were taken at the same time, they're just combined. Yeah. This is 6,000 gold. It's such a massive swing in the game.
It's the entire game right there on that play. Slam into the wall from Lyonz. They want to chase over the wall, go for the kill on Fudge, but they aren't going to find it. Oddie land jumping back over the wall with audacious charge as Saint fights in a 1v1 against Bvoy. Over the wall comes Zeyzal, ready to back up his AD, carry the stasis again. It ain't going to work because the Yordle snap trap is all that. Bvoy killing spree here in the bottom lane as Lion are down a mid laner, and Shopify Rebellion are looking to take us to our first game 3 of the LTA. Zeyzal, Bvoy, and Palafox putting the pressure on the inhibitor in bottom lane. They'll claim that one alongside the mid inhib. Finally, they're going to reset.
What an insane sequence. That's a plus 6,700 gold Baron power play that also gives them 2 inhibitors. Like Shopify, from the original moment of setting that up with the Caitlyn traps and the Maokai saplings, flipped a switch. They had been looking so poorly coordinated. Palafox was getting picked left and right across the map, but they came together there. Bvoy now at 3 items on the Caitlyn and an actual force in the game. So I absolutely agree with you. This is likely going to a game 3.
Contractz 2-2 and 5 on the Maokai as well. Really want to praise him for this. He had a good early game. He was setting things up for the team. He's been there in all of the fights here this time as well. 7 out of 9 kill participation. So much better look for Shopify. At least in the past 5 minutes, honestly, the mid game was really scary, but the setup that they had with the Caitlyn and the Maokai together, being able to control the area around the Otacon, really was the story of the throw in this game. I don't know what Licorice is doing. He's dead. That was... Okay, it's a 5v4.
He's staring at a screen. That's what he's doing.
We are ready for game 3 here at the end of this one. It is 10-6. It is a 5,000 gold lead for Shopify. Lion controlled it for 20 minutes, but Shopify's one big play around Otacon is telling the true tale of the game, as now they've got 2 waves of super minions ready to crash those into the Nexus turrets. Fudge setting them up with 3. Why settle for just mid and bot when top lane is right there for the taking? They'll knock that inhibitor down as well. Saint wanting to go in. Stop Palafox there. Palafox forced to use the ulti to keep himself alive, and it puts Saint in a great spot to get punished as he will fall first. Palafox on a killing spree. Oddie wanting to go into the back line, but it's not going to do enough. Flash away from Palafox, staying alive for now. Bvoy's got the damage to protect his mid laner, and with Hena now dropping, there's just no hope for Lion. Licorice respawns, but he's got to hold the line against everybody in Shopify jerseys. As the Nexus turrets fall, the Nexus is exposed. Shopify Rebellion on their victory march, padding the stats, getting an extra kill on Licorice before they finish the job. For the first time in the LTA, we are going to game 3.
Here we go. We got Shopify going to game 3. Thank goodness, man. This fearless draft, now we'll have 20 unusable champions, 20 banned champions going into game 3. Winner go home. 1 game left.
1 game left. We'll get to it here real soon. First up, we got to toss to a break. Game 3's next. Don't go anywhere.